Right now, we have 63rd District State Representative Matt Hall in our studio. Good morning, Matt. Nice to see you again.
Good morning.
Boy, it seems like a lot going on up there in Lansing. The roads, of course, continue to be, I think they're going to be an issue for a while here. I don't know if there's any end in sight there. I saw an interesting thing came across our desk about the green what do I want to say?
The Green New Deal.
The Green New Deal. That's the thing. Yeah, the Green New Deal has been talked about a lot, and you decided to kind of make a statement right off the bat. Tell us what that was.
Well, I proposed a resolution opposing the Green New Deal. It went before the Energy Committee in the House last week, and it passed. And the reason for that is the Green New Deal would fundamentally change our country. It would take us away from capitalism and move us to socialism. And, this would eliminate air travel and replace it with high-speed rail. It would eliminate the internal combustion engine. It would give a living wage to people who are unwilling to work. And it would eliminate fossil fuels in 10 years, which is unrealistic. So this would create crippling taxes, crippling debt, and it would cost $93 trillion over the next 10 years. And our current debt is only $22 trillion. So this is unrealistic. And I serve in the Michigan House. We represent the people of Michigan, and I thought it was important to make a stand for the people of the 63rd District and for Michigan, send a message to our Congress members and to our U.S. Senators to oppose this Green New Deal.
Now, I thought it was kind of interesting, though, that 7 of your colleagues on that committee like the new Green Deal, I guess, because they voted against your resolution.
That's right, and one of those was Jim Hotzma here from Battle Creek. And, what disappointed me about Jim's vote was, what would this do to Duncan Aviation? What would this do to WMU's aviation school? What would this do to Denso in his district? The other day I was touring Tenneco in Marshall. They employ 925 people making exhaust systems for the F-150 and other trucks. What would happen to them? They would all lose their jobs, Tim. We'd lose tens of thousands of jobs in Michigan between the energy sector, between manufacturing, if we got rid of cars. I mean, we're the automobile state, so I thought it was a bad vote. I mean, all the Republicans voted yes, and all the Democrats voted no. And the reason the Democrats voted no is they support the Green New Deal, and that's ridiculous, Tim. That's bad for our economy. It's bad for our country. It's a terrible vote. And so that's why I thought we needed to make a stand, and that's why I'm fortunate that it passed the House committee.
I think the thing that I'm wondering about, Matt, and that a lot of people are wondering about, I think, is all this just posturing and pushing to try and, move the needle a little bit toward more environmentalism? Or if these people were literally in power, would they do all of these things?
I think they would try to do all of these things, and that's why it's so scary. I think the new generation of people don't necessarily understand capitalism. They don't understand what truly made this country great. And it's really through markets and through innovation and technology and getting out of the way of these people, job creators, that we've done this. And, look at in Climax, in my district, where they're fracking shale and they're getting natural gas and oil. And, this is really one of the areas of the state that's exploding for energy exploration. And if we thought, several years ago that the U.S. would be the leader of the world in terms of exporting natural gas and oil, and for the first time ever to export more than we take in, we'd be shocked. So it's really through innovation in the market that these things happen, not through centralized government planning schemes, Tim.
Let's switch to the roads for a moment, because since we last talked to you, the governor presented a budget that included a 45-cent gas tax increase proposal over just a little over a year's time. And I guess, again, I kind of pose that question. Is this just kind of posturing to try and move the needle in one direction? Or do you think if these people were in power, would they actually impose a 45-cent increase in gas tax on us?
Well, you're right. The governor proposed a 45-cent gas tax increase, and I can't support that. I think it's too big of a hit for our taxpayers, our seniors, our families here in Michigan. The other thing that she proposed was to change the formula for how we fund the roads. And you really nailed this online. You talked about it, but most people didn't catch this, which is, so we'd raise the gas tax 45 cents a gallon, and then we would take that money that we raised and we would give it all basically to Detroit and the highest traffic roads in the state. And so for years, I mean, since, as you know, the 1950s, we've given that money in a different way that gives it to the counties and ensures that places like Calhoun County get a fair share. Now it would take that power away from the counties and give it to a state board with this task of giving it to the most commercially used roads, which means Detroit. So we'd be paying 45 cents more a gallon and getting less money percentage-wise. I think that's wrong. That's why I can't support this budget plan.
And the way I understand it, Matt, is that the new fund would just be for the current increase that's being proposed. We'd still have Public Act 51 on the books that we've had since 1951. But interesting, back in the campaign, this kept coming up, and a lot of people saying, well, it's time to redo Public Act 51. It's been around for a long, long time, and a lot of these rural roads are not getting attention. But the fact is that the proposal's alternative to what we have now would even be worse for rural townships and counties.
That's right. There's a tension in our state between the rural areas that are important because we have to have good conditions there in order to get agriculture, to market. And we use those roads every day, and so it's very important to us that they're in good condition. And in more urban areas that are higher traffic roads. And so you have that tension. Act 51 was a compromise between those two things, and both sides want to open it back up, but when you do, you get proposals like this that would take that power away from counties for the extra money, give it to state, and then transfer most of that to Detroit, and that isn't what we want, so I can't support this budget.
And I've had a few people say to me, Tim, yeah, the old, it's all going to go to Detroit scare tactic. Yeah, we've heard that before. That would never happen. But the fact is that, the governor's budget director said outright, we want this money to go to a different fund that will be used for the most highly traveled roads in Michigan. And if you look at MDOT's own maps, they're in red, and they're all in the Detroit metropolitan area, with the exception, I think, of a stretch of US 131 through Grand Rapids.
That's right. And, the other thing is, I think your listeners know, not all of the gas tax goes to the roads. There's a good portion of it. It's about, right now, 15 cents a gallon that goes to other things. And so I'd like to see us put all of the gas tax into the roads, all of it. And also, I'd like to see us keep this current formula that we're using, because it makes sure we get more money to rural areas, like the areas I represent in the 63rd District.
If we took that 15 cents per gallon tax that's now going to the general fund and dedicated it to the roads, how much would that raise roughly in a year?
Well, the proposal is 45 cents, so if this were about 15 cents, it'd be a third of it.
So a third of 2.1 billion.
Right.
Whatever. So that's seven. I can't do the math right now, but 700 and something million. So really only a third of what they're saying we need. Now, what I'm reading is that Republicans and Democrats and everybody kind of agree that we need somewhere north of 2 billion to get things in shape. Did you agree with that?
I've heard that. I'd like to study that some more. But, if we don't put all of the gas tax into the roads as the start of this conversation, then, we're just really growing government, because they raise taxes, they say it goes to the roads, and then we're spending all this money on other stuff. And what is that? That's growing government. So, let's make the tax increases about what they really are about. And right now there's 15 cents a gallon that's not going to roads. So we should put it there first at the beginning of this discussion, and then we can figure out how to solve the rest of the problem.
Right. So, and it wouldn't be a 45-cent increase, but are, let's say that it's agreed to dedicate every penny of the gas tax to our roads. Let's say we can get past that. Would you then support a gas tax increase in some amount to make up the difference?
Well, right now, there's negotiations going on between Speaker Chatfield, who's Republican, and Senator Shirkey, who's Republican, and Governor Whitmer, who's Democrat. And so I want to see what they come up with, and then I will consider that proposal. But, right now they're going to be the ones that are kind of leading, I'd say, the discussion on this.
Yeah, well, we'll see what comes out. What I've read is that the fear is that nothing's going to get done, and then come election time next time around, the fingers are going to get pointed at the Republican-led legislature as being unable to get anything done. Is something going to get done?
I'm hopeful, but we need a real plan, and raising the gas tax 45 cents a gallon is not a real plan. It's not very creative. We got to look at a broader plan, something that that won't hit our families and seniors as hard as this 45-cent gas tax plan. And so, if that turns out to be the only way, the only solution, I'm not going to support it.
Yeah, man. One other thing I just thought of too, maybe the most traveled roads in Michigan are in southeast Michigan and Detroit metro area, but those aren't exactly the roads that our tourists are going to be depending on when they come here to visit Michigan and get a favorable impression of our state. So that would be another argument, I think, for keeping Public Act 51 in place and keeping that funding going through that rather than a special fund for Detroit's roads.
Yeah, that's a great point. You're going up to Mackinac Island or up to Traverse City or over here on the west side of the state, where we have a lot of tourism. We want people to be able to get here, and good roads do that. And also this plan doesn't get the money into the townships. We need to get money into our townships, and through the counties. That's how we do that. And I'd like to see more of that get into our townships, where we desperately need road fixes.
State Representative Matt Hall is here, and what's up this week? What are you guys going to be looking at in your committee work and in the State House?
Well, I serve on the Regulatory Reform Committee, Tax Policy Committee, and I chair the Oversight Committee, and I'm also on Education. And this week in the Regulatory Reform Committee, tomorrow, we'll be taking up bills to create online gaming in Michigan, which also will include sports gaming. And so these bills will allow for you to be able to go online through a casino like Firekeepers, place a bet on a game. And I support these bills because you see this going on. People are doing it now.
Right, yeah.
And but it's unregulated. They don't know if they're going to get paid. It could be some shady offshore sports book. And this bill would make it a regulated and taxed activity that you can do here, whether it's at Firekeepers or MGM Grand in Detroit or some other casino. And so I'd like to see a above board legal online sports gaming system to where people can place wagers, know they're going to get paid, and it's regulated, and it's something that is above board, so people know what's going on. And if there was some way it impacted a game, when it's regulated, you can find that out and they can put a stop to it.
And that was being tossed around in the last legislative session, but the former governor didn't like it. Was that the deal?
Yeah. This was, one of the bills changes the Constitution because it changes the tax rate to 8%, which is important because their margins in sports gaming are pretty slim. So they found a tax rate that they can do it at and make it profitable, and also we can make money for the state of Michigan. And so, but it takes over, I think it's like 75% vote in order to change the Constitution. And so they had that kind of support on all these bills from Republicans and Democrats, but Governor Snyder vetoed it. So now we're coming back with this bill this session, and Representative Iden from Kalamazoo is leading the negotiations on this, and according to him, the Governor Whitmer is very open to this, and so they're just working out the finer details. But I'm hopeful. In the next probably year, probably longer, maybe year and a half, we'll have legal sports gaming here in Michigan and in Calhoun County.
And there's a bill being looked at that has to do with kids and vaping.
Right. So on Regulatory Reform Committee, we're going to be voting tomorrow to make it a civil infraction for a child under 18 to use, possess, or purchase vaping products. And I support this legislation because I believe we need to give the schools some ability to enforce these policies. And nicotine addiction at a young age is not a good thing, so I oppose it. I oppose nicotine addiction, but I support the bills. But I will tell you, the American Heart Association came in and opposed this bill. The Lung Association opposed this bill. And the reason was it creates something called an alternative nicotine product, which is really what it is. And these groups think it's tobacco. It's not. It's not tobacco. There's no tobacco in vaping. So it's just kind of funny. The reason I bring that up, you have a very simple bill. Let's stop children from vaping, right? I think everyone agrees with that. Kids shouldn't be addicted to this stuff. But you get all these lobbyists and political interests involved, and they try to throw out the bill over some technicality. And I guess when you talk about what are the things that surprise you about Lansing, this is one of those things. I'm hopeful the Republicans and Democrats on this committee come together to stop children from vaping, and that's what I plan to do tomorrow.
All right, State Representative Matt Hall, thanks for dropping by. We look forward to your next visit and seeing what happens with some of these things.
Thank you, Tim.